Let's take a look at our 60-minute chart of the S&P 500, where we look at what happened during the overnight sessions and during the day, and take a look at what did influence the markets this week. So here is your news that you can see in here, and if you look all the way on the left, the gray area there is the overnight on Sunday. See that big bar way over there on the left? That's that big recovery that we had last Friday, as the market just absolutely exploded for some 80 points late in the day. It was just enormous. And then on Friday, futures overnight on Sunday night, they extended that move that we saw on Friday pretty strong. Dollar had a big dip, and it brought the metals up. Silver gained 40 cents on Monday, and gold $11. So it was a good push in there on the upside, and that helped the market continue to the upside. After that big move on Friday over here, the Dow actually got up 575 points on Monday, and then it stalled and gave up ground, but it still ended 410 to the upside. That was really strong. Here overnight on Tuesday, the yen had a pop. Dollar fell pretty hard at that point, and Asian stocks don't like that when the yen pops, because that essentially means that the Asian products will be more expensive to the U.S. buyers. So they tend to not like that. We got some pullback in here, but as you can see on Tuesday, buyers came right back in. That really happened every single day, as you saw right in here on Wednesday and on Thursday, and this half the day on Friday, the buyers just kept coming in. So this was a week where it was pretty much nonstop. Inflation news came out and bothered the market. This is one of those dips I'm talking about. As a matter of fact, the S&P 500 fell 48 points when the news came out that the CPI was up 0.5%, and it just brought buyers in like crazy. Silver and gold stalled on that news. They didn't move, and then all of a sudden they took off in a huge way, and we saw big moves on the upside. And the S&P 500 rebounded 65 points off of this low, just as buyers just love the fact that they were now buying golds and material stocks and things like that, so they found another reason to move the stocks up. Bonds fell 1 point again at that point. I'll show you that I think we're going to be making a bottom in the bond market. Here we had some news that Cisco beat after the close on Wednesday. That helped the market be strong and drive the Nasdaq up. But then the PPI came out up 0.4%. That was pretty much in line. And then the market started to give some ground in here. But then the news had come out that Apple they had their share that Buffett held increased, and that led the Nasdaq up. The Nasdaq rallies 115 points, led by a 5.5-point move in Apple on iPhone X selling okay in China. They gain a share there, and between that news on iPhone X and Buffett increasing his holdings in Apple, it drove the Nasdaq up very strongly, and you can see that right in there. Overnight here, they were still firm on Friday. Housing starts jumped on real strong demand for rentals, up some 9%, and import prices surged 1%. So there's another one of those inflation boogeymans coming in and knocking the market down over there. And the market was doing fine until the news came out about the Russian indictments, and there, of course, some fear about what that meant about the Trump campaign, and pretty much sure, based on everything I'm hearing, that that is not going to be an issue for them, and that's probably going to be celebrated by the Trump administration, unless some more news comes out in here that we don't know. Anyway, the markets seem very ready to give up some of those gains, and here late on Friday, we'll call it getting a little bit softer than we've seen it this week. We do believe that what we're seeing in here, the nature of this market over these last few weeks, is the nature of a market that is topping and that is in a process of correction. We saw the correction get down about 10% and then had this big rebound, and we strongly believe that between now and the springtime, that it is going to have some more significant waves to the downside. We did a big picture analysis. You can see a snippet of that on our YouTube channel if you want to go look at that, where I talk about the Dow Jones Industrial Average patterns. Then for our members, there's a big picture analysis on the stock market that you can see that I go back and look historically at times similar to this, and found 4 times in the last 60 years that we saw this, that actually did start some pretty good declines in the stock market. So you're going to want to go watch those videos. Not a member, become an Ask Slim member, and make sure that you follow us on Twitter and become a YouTube subscriber, and you'll get a lot of the great stuff that we put out pretty much on a daily basis. Stock market had this immense move. As I said, when I recorded the show last Friday with a couple hours left to go, it was trading basically on its lows, and I projected the S&Ps to get up in this week to 2630. That would have been like 80-point move, and said, wow, that's a big move, but I believe it's going to happen. And then we get like 220-point move off of the bottom. So it was way bigger than I expected. It got through every resistance zone that we had in there, except coming up now into the 61.8% resistance, and then rejecting some. And the same thing for the Nasdaq, which gets up into the 78%. Wow, that's just a huge move. So here's what we're looking at in here. And for those people that have our charts, you will notice that something is a little different here. And we made a note of what's called a half cycle shift. There's essentially small cycles right in here. And we've had all of these patterns made up of 2 of those. Now what this one did was add a third one into it and then get this big jump. So this pattern in here, which is the one we're following, gets a half cycle move this way, and now this is the one that we're following right in here. So that's some pretty advanced cycle analysis right there, and some hocus pocus, some of you might think. But it's true, and that's what we really look at to really get our best understandings of the market. So the S&P 500 does what I don't expect. It gets way past. The first number that I had was right over here, and the second number somewhere right over here, and it gets way past those and gets up into the 61.8 and then rejects. You can see that right there. So we're going to call this coming week a down up week. What does that mean? Come down, test this area of support. That number right over there is right around, we'll call it 2703 right there. This is 2665. Those are the targets. You can see the date that we have right in here towards the end of February. We're going to call this a down up week. It just might be down with not a lot of up. And it might not give a lot of ground early. It might just do this. You see something like this and then turn up. So this number right over here that we're looking at, 2703, I think that's very likely. It's only 30 points to the downside, which is not much in this market. And this one over here is only some 70 points on the downside. So I think that is very doable, and we're going to look for a down up week that ends small to the downside for the week. I'm going to show you the VIX, why I think there's a little more enhancement to that analysis. Let's look at the Nasdaq first, as this storms way past anything that I was looking at in here. Now note the slim ribbon. You see it curling up right over here, but still red, still negative. That's let's go back to the S&Ps for a second so you could see that. And you could see right in here the slim ribbon curling up but still negative. When that happens at the resistance zone and you get overbought, that is, like we said in light crude, the place where it likely turns down from. So the Nasdaq has got the same situation where we have the projection oscillator overbought. It's come way up to the 78.6% and now rejecting. So again, there's that half cycle shift in there, and we're focusing on this right here and then the half cycles in the middle. You pull down for part of this week, and then you rally a small down week probably, and then roll over a couple weeks later into this declining phase. So if we put that up on the chart for you to see, we would look for this getting down to the support areas. That looks like 66.83 right over there, which is 100 points on the downside, and then rallying and then moving down again. That's looking out about 3 weeks time that we're looking there. We'll call it a small downside week. Now I want to show you the VIX and what supports that, and the VIX patterns have been magnificent. Here you could see that the cyclical pattern suggested that we were going to get a pullback in the VIX right over here, and that was the period of rebound for the stock market. Look what we're getting right now, and that says we're likely to get an upside move. I wouldn't be surprised to see a 25 to 30 VIX again next week, or even higher than that, as the market then starts to pull back and people start to get nervous that, well, the next big down wave is coming. I actually don't think it's time yet for the next big down wave. I actually think that we're going to get more into a choppy situation, and then the next big down wave is some weeks out there. So you could see what we're looking at in the VIX, and that's calling for implied volatilities increasing again in the next week. And we'll just have this, we'll call it a cross rough going on between the bulls and the bears, you know, as the market just changes its mind in some of the most extreme ways we have ever seen. Don't forget, go to my websites and sign up to get that in on that special premium price for our cycle workshop. Follow me on Twitter, become a YouTube subscriber, and if you want to get our charts on your Thinkorswim platform, write Slim at AskSlim.com so that you can then get our half price on everything that we do, including all of my cycle work, and you will greatly benefit and learn a ton from all of that. I hope you enjoyed that video. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also go to AskSlim.com and become a Level 1 member. No cost to you, and we have some special videos for you to see. I know you'll enjoy them. I've been